if you could, as I call your name or call out your box there, if you could tell me your full name and who you're representing here today, whether you're a member of the public, the applicant or the owner, or someone else related to the project. And I'll start with a gentleman that has iPad 2 listed in the black shirt.
My name's Joe Croner from Rawson Farm Lane, property adjacent to the schoolhouse or the farmhouse.
Okay. And could you spell your last name for me?
Kroner.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have Luke Blocher.
That's correct, Luke Blocher. I guess I'm here as a member of the public, although I think I was listed as a potential speaker for the applicant.
Okay, great. Welcome. And Murray Grease.
It's Grease. I am, like Joe, I'm also a neighbor. My backyard is adjacent to the yellow farmhouse. I'm on Rawson Farm Lane.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. And looks like someone from Burkhart, Cincinnati Public.
Hi, Chris Burkhart, Cincinnati Public Schools Chief Operating Officer. I'm the owner at this point.
Okay, great. Welcome. We have Matt Lashide from the Planning Department and Zoning Division.
Hi, David. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. And Dave Hester.
Good afternoon. I am the project manager with Elevar Design Group. We're the designer for the owner and the applicant.
Okay, great. On the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us here today?
No.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. I need to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get into it. So this is the July 24th, 2024 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Case for today is case number ZH20240085. That's 3737 Clifton Avenue. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties the opportunity to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any potential wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So I'll allow Mr. Burkhart and Mr. Hester at that time an opportunity to tell me about the project, background they think is important, the relief that's required, and why they think that relief is appropriate. You all can orient that presentation however you would like. Both of you can speak, one of you can speak. It's completely up to you. I'll then move on to the public. Everyone here, the neighbors and members of the public will have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. I will hear from the zoning division of the planning department as well to provide any testimony in addition to their staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's a defect that prevents us from being fully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. All right, last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, asking any questions, making any comments, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if you know that that is you, I'm going to collectively swear everyone in together. So if you could take yourself off of mute, I'll need everyone to raise their right hands and to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right, who'll be taking the lead here on the presentation from the applicant?
Hey, David, can I ask a question really quick before you start?
Sure. Yeah.
Because this may be a technicality. I was from the public. I was included on the application as, I don't know if the term was witness or what, the people who might speak in behavior. So I don't know if that changes anything, but that's sort of like I am part of this from that level, not as a received the notice and sort of like asked to speak as a member of the public.
Okay, so you are appearing on behalf of the applicant or the owner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, is it in your capacity as an attorney or
No,
with?
no,
Okay.
no. Yeah, and I should have said this in capacity as a former member and sort of affiliate of the LSDMC of the school that is adjacent to CAMS.
Got it.
And our principal was also on the list of sort of witnesses that were submitted with the application, but he is out of town this week.
Okay.
It turned out when the hearing got scheduled.
Okay. All right. So yeah, then you're welcome to present and provide testimony during the application, the applicant's presentation portion, which is now. So
Okay, great.
I will turn it over to the three of you to tell me about the project.
Thank you.
Sure.
All
So
right, Chris, you want me to take?
Yes, I believe Mr. Hester is going to start, and then I will fill in wherever I'm needed to, and then obviously Luke will also follow up with some additional information.
All right.
Great.
So thank you, everybody. On behalf of Cincinnati Public Schools, we applied for the change of use from single family to conditional use approval for educational use in this district. Going back on the history of Cincinnati Public Schools owning the property, they acquired the property in 2017. And it's been sitting basically unused effectively since that time. And now they are looking into officially making it usable property for supporting educational functions, notably the Clifton Neighborhood School, which is adjacent, and then also for other adjacent schools that may want to use the grounds. The building is historical farmhouse style, original to the property, and the client is intending to not make any changes to the property in terms of the structure. We'd like to use the building for some basic office functions and some community use, school use on the grounds. But basically, they'd like to occupy the building and start using it for some limited, business functions and community use. We're going through after this process a change of use application with the building department. So there may be some changes that are required for the change of use from that avenue. We do not know the full extent of that, but we have an idea it's going to be pretty minor in terms of the exterior, to where we might need to add some handicap ramp features and improve some railings. But for the most part, the exterior of the building is going to remain the same as it is now. The grounds are going to remain the same as they are now, with the exception of if we need to do any changes to the driveway for supporting emergency use for vehicles. But we are not at this point anticipating increasing pavement for parking or other improvements. So basically, the property as you see it now is how it will remain once everything is approved for the district to start using the school. Some of the functions that are intended to be used, like I mentioned, were office functions. We're targeting up to 10 people daily, working within the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. In addition, there could be uses for meeting conference facilities in the building, up to 30 people on occasions, within the time frame of 6 to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And then, like I said before, the use of the grounds are proposed where we bring kids over or other community events to be held in the daylight hours in the front lawn, effectively, between Clifton Avenue and the house. The side yards and the backyards are minimal and not available for any type of function effectively. So most of the functions will be in the front. Like I said, parking, we're not improving or adding asphalt for parking on site. We're expecting overflow parking to be taken at the adjacent schools at CANS or at the language school nearby.
Okay, and to be clear, is this, if there are students that are utilizing the property, are they coming from just the one school from CANS? Or is this open to all Cincinnati public?
So they would be coming from the Can School, which is adjacent. There is another school, Fairview, which is across the street from Can's. We don't anticipate students coming from there, but there might be an incident or a time when, students might be commingled at Can's and students come over, but that's not the intent.
Okay. And you said that if students did come over, would it be for recreational or recess type activities in that front yard, or would it be for special events or all the above?
Mainly for special events at this point because the playground right now has a fence around it. So we've been using that for field day and those types of activities. We do not anticipate at this point having students actually in the building, so they would just be in the adjacent lot right next to where their playground is.
If I could jump in, and this is, give a little background as sort of from my comments, that I was the chair of the LSDMC at CANS for the last 8 years or so, and this has been a process we've been engaged with for a long time to deal with the space constraints at our building as we grew. And so this specific conversation evolved from the idea that, and I was going to get into this a little bit later, but in essence, the CANS building is sort of at capacity right now as it is filled up. And we went through a space analysis at the school with the principal and the LSDMC around how we could find some outlets to deal with that. And the inside the building right now for the past school year and for this school year, it's a situation where there's a lot of small meeting space that has to happen in hallways or like almost like closet type situations. And so we devised a plan to, if we could get access to the Rawson House strictly for those sort of adult meeting space needs, small scale meeting space needs, that would be a release valve for the sort of stuff that's happening, in squeezing out the school. It's not being proposed, and this has been said, but it's not being proposed to have like classroom facilities or anything like that. It's more of a release valve for small meeting space, for the CANS perspective, for small meeting space in the building. And then also, as Chris mentioned, for kids who could potentially be, and this is part of the application, sort of recreation on the front lawn area. So the kids section is more about the front lawn during the school day, having recreation space, and then the interior is more for sort of small meeting space from the CANS perspective. I'm only speaking on that part. I think Chris can speak to the other sort of potential uses by the district. But Chris, tell me if I get any of that wrong from the CPS perspective. Yeah. And I want to just give that background too. This all sort of grew out of this process over many years of the school leadership at CANS sort of seeing what was happening about the school growth, seeing we were going to run out of space. There's a much bigger conversation with the district about growing space for that school, but that this property next door that was already owned and controlled by the district could serve as a release valve for some of the small meeting spaces, and then a very important release valve for the sort of outdoor kid recreating spaces, which they're really like jammed on top of each other in the small fenced-in playground we have next to the school right now.
Got it. Okay. As far as recreation goes, is there a plan for fencing or sectioning off the area where that will happen, or will the front remain the same?
So right now, as we're speaking, the front's going to remain the same. We may down the road decide what that's going to look like. However, there's some drainage area in between the school and the front yard. So putting fencing up, we'd have to do some work and figure out what that looks like more long term. So it's not just a matter of just extending the current fence. We'd have to look at the grade, the slope, what the drainage looks like, and see if it's even feasible. But that's not in the scope right now, or within the next year.
Okay. All right. Anything else before I move to the public?
Yeah, I'd like
Chris.
to, if I may
Go
make
ahead.
a couple
Go ahead,
clarifications.
Mr.
So just to be clear, the upcoming change of use application for the building, for the house, will be to change it from single family to business use. And so that precludes the capacity or the availability of that building for educational use with children. To change it to educational use would take a lot more effort. And so I just want to make sure it's clear that potential use of the farmhouse itself is limited to business use and adults. The front yard, when we talk about the front yard and recreation use, there is a portion of what appears to be the front yard, which is where the playground is now for cans. That's actually a separate parcel. And so that's already contained with the school property and function. So we're really talking about the two parcels that comprise the Rawson House property as where we'd be moving into with this potential new use that we're asking for. But the playground is already included as an acceptable use with the school. And that's not in discussion at this point with this application.
Sure, but the use of the front yard for recreation is part of this discussion. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
David, I did have one more comment from the applicant side. So there were 2 points I just wanted to add to this to put into the record. One is sort of what the background I gave on. This has been probably a 3+ year process at the school to do a space assessment, to do a bunch of surveying and analysis of what we could do, working with the district to see about the possibilities for this space. And so the sort of where we've netted out is the end of a multi-year process of sort of looking at potential options to, again, deal with some of these release valves for these limited purposes. The second is, I just wanted to make sure that it was in the record as much as we can put it in through the testimony of there's a process that the school and the district went through with the Clifton Town meeting to discuss this proposal. So in just sort of like formal meetings that happened in January of 2023, the principal, James Zoller, and me presented at Clifton Town meeting and basically presented on that space analysis that I discussed, and sort of, this is the work we've done. This is what's happening with the school, and this is some of the things we propose to try to way to deal with some of this space constraints and really having this administrative overflow space in the Rawson House and the recreating space in the front yard. In February of 2023, the board president, I'm not sure if she was president at the time, but Eve Bolton came to the CTM and presented on the same topics more broadly. I think there was an internal memo in March of 2023 that went around into the CTM from CTM members that talked about the history of the house, and I believe that talking about the original ownership being affiliated with the university and there being an intent in that original deed to foster education supports. In April of 2023, there was the Clifton Town meeting and Activities Beyond the Classroom had a community discussion to discuss like the future of the space with some of the community groups represented in the neighborhood. And out of that came a recommendation to go back to the Clifton Town meeting and Activities Beyond the Classroom in May, then presented to CTM the results of that discussion, essentially recommending that there be a request to CPS to ask them to consider the use of Rawson as to help address Kansas space constraints and potentially be a resource for Fairview as well. More broadly, to say Kansas needs more space generally, but also the specifics of the farmhouse. And then that letter got sent in May from Clifton Town meeting to the school board. So there was a meeting from the Clifton Town meeting, the school board saying, we're excited about Kansas, this is great news. We're asking you to put the work in to find more space for cans, but also to look at the farmhouse as a short-term aid to this challenge we're facing. So that's some of the back context of other things that have gone on to lead us to this point.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I think we will move on to the public now. Mr. Kroner, is there anything you want to add to the conversation here?
Yeah, when we met with, I think it was Chris, we discussed there's some drainage issues on the back of the property. that we're still waiting to figure out how that's going to be addressed. And there was some issues with just screening and making sure that only the front lawn is used and not the back and the sides, because neighbors have been affected by that in the past. And I just want to make sure that that's on the record, that we're still concerned about those issues, not that we're not denying the use of the property at all for the school, but just make sure those issues are covered.
Sure. Before we go to Mr. Grease, did anyone from the applicant team want to respond directly to that?
Yeah, I can respond for what we know right now. So I came to the district after the Rawson house was renovated, and when they put in the driveway and the gutter system, it doesn't look like they tied that together and pushed it towards either a French drain or any kind of area for that water to collect. So by default, it runs down the back of the property into the adjacent lots. We have had multiple maintenance folks out there, as well as some landscapers to develop a plan. It looks like our initial try, lack of a better term, is to put in a French drain in the back, see if we can collect that water and disperse it, as well as looking at the guttering system. And then the second piece is trying to figure out a more long-term plan on what does it look like to take all the water from that entire area that's going to pull both in the Rawson farmhouse lot, as well as subsequent lots, and look for a more permanent. And that might mean the city coming in and putting in city sewer stormwater drain as well. So we've got a short-term fix that we are looking at, and a long-term fix which will include the city.
Okay. And to confirm, there's no plan for rear side yard recreational kid use, right? That's limited to the front yard.
Yeah, there really isn't a backyard or side yard per se. There's some arborvitae that are on the back side of it, and the small swatch on the I'm going to call it the northwest side. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Has the HVAC and just is a very, very small area. So, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I just pulled this up. So
yeah, there's not a lot of space behind or on the sides that we can do it. So where your cursor is right now, just to the left of that, I think is that space that water is accumulating. There's some trees right there. It doesn't lend itself for students to be back there.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to Mr. Croner, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, those were just the two issues I think we needed to be on record.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your testimony. Mr. Grease, anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I want to echo Joe's comments that overall we understand the need of the school, and we're not opposed to it, with the assurances we've been given, just some of the things that were just said, looking at those drainage issues, et cetera, and some screening. And also kids would only be in the front, and other representations that have been made. I just have a few questions and comments. One question is, so we moved in, bought the lot, and built a house that was finished in 2013, and it was zoned residential, and that yellow house was sold to a family. So, our property value, our expectation was we'd be living around families, in the backyard. And since the house has sat empty, it hasn't really bothered us. But, I like the idea that it's kind of minimal use for adults. One question I have is that back parking pad, which is the pad that's sort of causing the drainage issues into the lots. Teachers aren't going to regularly use that, or school administrators, as their parking spot for the day, are they?
So the offices that are going to be over there are going to be, when I say temporary in nature, I say that throughout the day. There's going to be folks who are going to be in the Rawson house, but have to work in the building. I don't foresee that being an issue. However, I would say that there's probably a situation where I would expect 1 or 2 cars to be there. I would not expect there to be, 3, 4, 5 there unless they're coming in to do something and then or dropping something off and then leaving. So my expectation is it's there temporarily, although there might be 1 or 2 people who are parking in that back lot.
Okay, but not an everyday parking lot.
I right now I don't, I don't know what I don't know, but from my lens, I don't expect there to be folks there that are, I think what you're looking for is how many cars are going to be there for, an extended period of time. I would say I would not expect there to be more than 2 because the office space doesn't lend itself to be any more than 4. So I can't imagine that all 4 people would be there at the same time utilizing that office space. Maybe on a professional development day, which happens, 4 or 5 times a year. I would expect maybe
Okay.
at the beginning of school. Yeah, there might be, 3 days where it's teacher readiness days. Yeah, those days, but on a concurrent basis, I would say no.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. And I figure the teachers and the administrators have a parking spot already for cans, and maybe they'll just walk over for their meeting, their temporary meeting. I mean, that would be ideal for us, but yeah, 1 or 2 cars, I don't think is a
Yeah,
big.
and that's our expectation, which is why we're not looking to put in a new driveway and pour new pads all the way
Yeah.
up to the street, because I think that also lends itself to, if you build it, they will come. And we
Yeah.
don't want that to be the exception to the rule, not the rule, if you know
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, since the school bought it, that parking pad was expanded, which again caused the drainage issues. But it did in the very beginning, before I think people realized there was a zoning issue. There sometimes were, it sometimes was packed with cars, and it was kind of disturbing residentially to see that. So, I hope it won't be. It's built so they will come. Is basically my point. But I appreciate it.
So I'm glad you bring that up. We did have a request, and I think our treasurer's office had the request for their management team to utilize that space for a meeting, and we actually used a microbus or 2 microbuses to bring in folks. The bus came, they dropped them off in the front. That bus then just left and parked at the CRC lot, and then they came back and picked them up. So we tried to be respectful of not having a whole bunch of people parking. That's even though I think we had 18 people there. We didn't want that to be a nuisance to the community, and hopefully you didn't even see it happen, because that was our intent, is not to draw attention to it.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay.
One other question I have, and I appreciate Dave Hester's comment about the reason you're not moving for educational zoning, because it's going to be adults only. One concern I have is, school districts change 15 years from now, cans might not exist, whatever. CPS could sell the house. I wouldn't want it to be sold to a chiropractic office or something where then it's business use. So my question is, could there be a stipulation in the zoning approval that if the school ever sells it, it's got to be residential, that it reverts back to the residential zoning that everybody moved into Clifton to be around, not that now that can become some other business office.
So if I could, this might be a good time to allow the planning department and the zoning division to clarify exactly what the zoning request is here and what I'll be evaluating. Mr. Hester, if you could just hold your thought for 1 minute.
Okay.
Matt, could you shed some light on that?
Sure, thank you. And yeah, Mr. Hester, we may be speaking the same thing here, but so there's a building code and there's a zoning code, and they're 2 different sets of rules. So this is a hearing related to the zoning code, and it's in place because the property is zoned single family. A school use is a conditional approval, which means it necessitates a hearing like this one. A business use would not be permitted at all in a single family zoning district. Yeah, I mean, at a bare minimum, you'd get another hearing invitation like this, but no, I mean, there's no, it's not a permitted use like a chiropractor office, a restaurant, salon, nothing like that is permitted in a single family zoning district. It's really only single family houses, and then there's conditional use approval for things like schools, parks, churches. But this is going to be the most intense, I suppose, use would be a school. So you would never see an office for some other type of business even would not be permitted.
I see. So I guess I misunderstood. So the zoning is not for business use. It's for conditional school use.
Yeah,
Correct.
educational
It's a
use.
conditional
Okay.
use approval for a school use. But the type of school use that the applicant is proposing here is going to be primarily office use for administrators and adults that work in the school.
Yeah, yeah.
And just to clarify, that we've had these discussions internally with the team. There is some difference in definition of business between the zoning code and the building code. So the building code, or what the district wants to do in this building, we have to change use to business, because we're not educating K-12 aged kids inside the building. If we were doing that inside the house, it would be educational, but because we're adults only, we have to classify it as a business as per the building code. But when we're applying this for zoning use, it's a conditional educational use under zoning. So there's this, this confusion in terminology between the two versions of the codes that we have to adhere to.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I think those were all my questions. Oh, one last question. I did notice on the, I don't know if you could do that aerial view again, but on the sort of just off the front porch, so sort of somewhere below that circular driveway and the house, I mean south, I guess, there's a new slab put somewhere in that lawn. I walked by it the other day, like a new slab that looks like it could house some huge HVAC unit or something, like a new slab of concrete. I'm just wondering what that is and how loud it's going to be.
Yeah, good question. So that is the HVAC unit that is being installed, and I believe I sent all the specifications along with the decibel units for each of those to the group. And I'm sorry if you didn't get it, but I can resend it to you specifically. I believe everyone in the group got it, or it went to one person and they were supposed to send it out. It will not be intrusive as far as noise, and I don't have the decibel count, but we had the manufacturer's specifications for the units along with how loud they're going to be. So I sent that out, I think, shortly after our last meeting at the school. So happy to get you that information.
Yeah, I don't know if I received it. Maybe my neighbors did.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that's where it would be, because the existing units are more close to the house.
And you bring up a good point. Don't mean to cut you off, but when you say before you were talking about some screening, where our goal is after all the construction is done, and when I say construction, the HVAC, and we have to replace a lot of the decking panels for the porch up front. Our intent is to put up more arborvitae and allow more screening of that, so it is not intrusive. Even though the HVAC will be a low decibel count, we're going to put arborvitae around it as well, so that if it does make any noise, or we know it will make some noise, but just like a residential unit, but that will be buffered by some trees as well, so it should knock down that the little bit of noise there does kick on from the fan. It will be mitigated.
And if I may ask, Mr. Grease, if you're talking about a slab that's sort of where the end of the straight portion of the drive is and where the curve, the loop begins, is that the slab you're talking about? Sort of in front of the house on the left, if you're approaching the house?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a transformer pad. And so that'll have a quiet, just big green box from Duke Energy
Oh,
for
okay.
electric. And that'll be absolutely quiet. If it's making noise, there's a serious problem. And
Got
usually
it.
it's one big noise. So it should just be passive and just a green box on the ground.
So that slab is
Yeah, if you're talking about it should be
not-
about a 10-foot by 10-foot slab in front of the house, away from the house.
Yeah.
That's the transformer.
I see.
They're changing their electrical service, and that's part of the new electric.
Oh, okay. So the HVAC will be going, just replacing where it is already?
Yeah, it'll be set back a little bit further. I'm sorry, I didn't realize which one you were talking about. But yeah, the HVAC is going to be where the old units were,
Okay.
but those slabs will be offset a little bit more because they're bigger units. But they're going to be quieter than the ones that were there previously.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Sorry for not knowing which pad you were talking about.
Yeah. Well, I did. You know what? I didn't see the other pad because I
Okay.
walked around the other way. Like
Okay.
I saw the one out front, but not the one out back.
Okay. Thank you for clarification, David.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Grease. I appreciate your testimony, your perspective here today. I think we'll move on to the planning department. Matt, anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, David. I think we've gone over it pretty well, but so the use of the property is proposed to be for school use as defined in the zoning code, and a school is a conditional use, necessitating this hearing. Generally, with conditional uses, our main concern is that it's going to be appropriate in context with the surroundings. So, they're maintaining an existing residential looking structure. Most of the change is going to be on the inside. There was some discussion, that we've had previously as well as today about where the kids would be playing, and they'll be in the front yard. Doesn't sound like there'll be a lot of traffic. So with that, I don't anticipate any adverse impacts. Mr. Burkhart has indicated a desire to install additional landscaping along the southwest of the property. I think that's a good idea. I think that'll help alleviate some of the concerns that were raised today, and we would certainly support that. With that, staff is happy to recommend approval.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Okay, I'll turn it back over to the applicants. Anything you want to say in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, we obviously want to be good neighbors. We've met with the folks in the surrounding area. We've dropped off literature to everyone within a half-mile radius, and so we want to be good neighbors. And so please, I'm asking anyone who's on this call, please reach out, because we don't want to be intrusive and don't want this to cause any contention amongst the neighborhood. It's a great location. It's a great neighborhood, and we want to keep it that way. So,
thank you.
And if I can add on behalf of the applicant team too, it's July 24th. School starts in, I don't know, less than a month. And just, because my role in this has been operationally from the school, I think a request that as soon as the decision can be shared and we can sort of have a sense to be able to plan for, that overflow space. This is, we were at full capacity last year, and we added another classroom of full students this year. So just the space issues are real, and they are timely, and it would be a huge help to the school if we could be able to sort of plan for the beginning of the school year to access for the purposes identified here.
Sure. Okay. I think we'll leave it at that then. I am inclined to, based on the testimony and the application materials and the staff report, I am inclined to approve this with some guardrails and conditions put around it. In particular, no further expansion of the parking lot in the rear. I'm not sure that there's anything that I can do or it's within my scope to condition any mitigation of the drainage issues. It doesn't sound like anything they're proposing today is going to further exacerbate those. But I think that would have to be something that was discussed privately amongst the parties. And I think I will also put some conditions around the areas that are permitted for recreational use of the children, to try to keep those as far away from the Rawson Place homes as possible, to avoid any adverse sonic or visual impacts. Outside of that, though, I do believe I will be approving this. Mr. Blocher, to your point, I'll do everything I can to expedite that approval in light of school starting soon. As soon as I finish the official decision, which will be in writing, I'll put it into a PDF and I'll email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all will have a copy of that really just moments after it's complete. To the applicants, as soon as you receive that email, Mr. Lashide can approve the zoning permitting on his end, and you all can start to take the next steps. Any questions about any of that? No? Okay. Well, if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me, or I'm sure Mr. Lashide can answer zoning questions as well. If you'd like a status update on the decision, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll let you know where I'm at on that. But again, Luke, I'll do everything I can to get that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for your time, your testimony. Hope you have a wonderful day. Good luck on